This is Rick Rule for the Vancouver Natural Resources Investment Symposium 2021 edition. I'm delighted to be here interviewing a longtime friend of this conference, a longtime supporter of this conference, Tony Giardini, formerly with Ivanhoe, which of course needs no introduction to people on this call, a certified 10-bagger for the conference, now with Trilogy. Tony, welcome and thank you for your efforts on our behalf over this last decade.
Rick, it's great to be here, and it's great that you introduced me as being involved with Ivanhoe. It's a great story, and wonderful week this week with Kamoa-Kakula starting up. So kudos to Robert and the entire Ivanhoe team.
Kudos to you, too. You have a remarkable taste for large, high-grade copper deposits rather than dwelling on the past success. Like that great American investor Janet Jackson said, "What have you done for me lately?" Tell us something about the investment proposition around Trilogy.
Yeah, the way I look at Trilogy, Rick, there's really four things. It's about grade, and we have high grade. It's about jurisdiction. We're in a great jurisdiction in the state of Alaska, and it's about exploration upside, which we believe there's significant exploration upside. And then it's about partnerships, and we have some excellent partnerships with our partner South 32, with NANA, and with the state of Alaska. So that's really, in a nutshell, the Trilogy story.
Let's take it out of the nutshell then and unpack it one by one. Talk to me about the grade in the context that the average copper mined grade worldwide right now is a little less than 0.5%. Talk to me about the grade that you're finding thus far in Alaska.
Yeah, so we've got two projects. One's an advanced development project that's called Arctic. It's 43.4 million tons at an average copper equivalent grade of 4.2%. So it's a great deposit with great economics of 1.1 billion on the initial feasibility study. But if you look at it in the context of current spot prices, that NPV is now over 2.6 billion. So it's a spectacularly good deposit. And then we also have, sorry, go ahead, Rick.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, we also have an advanced exploration project called Bornite, and Bornite's 180 million tons at roughly 1.6% average grade on the copper side. So these are definitely high grade by anyone's standards.
Let's do jurisdiction, because jurisdictions in the copper business have been in the news this last month. Chile deciding to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by proposing to tax the copper industry to death, and Congo yesterday talking about the fact that they don't want to export concentrates, but rather send them to a domestic smelter, which they don't have. Talk to us something about Alaska as a jurisdiction in the copper business.
I think Alaska is a great jurisdiction from a mining point of view in general. I was fortunate enough to have spent a number of years working or dealing with Alaska when I was at Kinross, and we have a Fort Knox mine. And what we've got is a project that has been thought about for obviously a number of years. Exploration in the district has been there for a long time. But the key to our success is the partnerships with NANA and the state of Alaska, and it's the real opportunity here is unlocking value through the infrastructure that's being proposed, which is an all-weather private access road into the Ambler Mining District, which was permitted last year. So that's really what puts us in a very strong position in terms of the next phase of development. And yes, we are watching the situation in places like Chile and Peru, and obviously in the DRC with the recent announcement on concentrates or smelting requirements. So we feel we'll be in a good position in the great state of Alaska.
We're going to come back to your partnerships in just a minute. But I want to, before we do that, to touch on exploration. We have been attracted to your project, not just for the two deposits that you have now, but the belief of our own technical staff that yours is a district rather than a deposit. So perhaps you could talk to what you see as the exploration upside and how it is that you propose to address that opportunity in the next sort of 2 years.
Yeah, this is an area that has not had a lot of exploration done on it if you consider the size and scale of it. The Ambler Mining District, the JV that we have with South 32, is 172,000 hectares. So we have a planned program this year of 14,600 meters, 7,600 meters at Arctic, and then some near-term exploration in and around Arctic, and then some more exploration in the general area. What we're really looking at is finding other satellite deposits that will allow us to extend Arctic mine life. And then beyond that, we think bornite itself, which has 180 million tons, as I mentioned before, there's excellent opportunities there. And going back to my Ivanhoe experience, I brought in one of my former colleagues, David Broughton, Dr. David Broughton, to work with us really in terms of looking at the exploration potential in the district and better understanding the big picture of how these ore bodies were created. So we hope to leverage his intellectual capital in terms of how we think about the district and the exploration potential. So it's really about how much time and effort we can put in, and we're going to scratch the surface. We've got a big drill program planned this year, probably one of the largest that we've had at the Ambler Mining District in the last 10 to 15 years.
Note to viewers, those of you who don't know David Broughton should Google him. This is a very, very impressive human being. I'm embarrassed to tell you how many years I've known him. But for those of you watching this video who don't know who David Broughton is, that isn't a throwaway name. Google him, get to know him. But let's move on rather than just flattering David. You mentioned partnerships, and I think that's an important part of your story. I think the first partnership that we should mention is the partnership with the interim funding partner, South 32. Describe that and tell the viewers, those viewers who don't know who South 32 is and why they're an important partner.
Sure. So South 32 pursued us a number of years ago. They sort of knocked on the door and said, we're interested in your project. They put a proposal together, which wasn't particularly compelling. And then they came back with a better option. And that option was that they would invest $30 million in exploration over a 3-year time period. And it would give them the option, but to form a JV. And that was formed at the beginning of 2020. So in total, South 32 have spent about $200 million in terms of their investments in Trilogy or the Ambler Mining District. They formed the JV by contributing $145 million into the JV. And what we did was take all of the Ambler Mining District, move it into the JV, so we're 50-50 partners. South 32 was demerged out of BHP a number of years ago. They made a big investment in Arizona when they bought Arizona Mining a number of years ago. And for people that follow the industry, what they'll see is that South 32 is really focused on transitioning into more base metal business. And I would encourage people to go to their website. They recently put a presentation out which talked about their strategy, talked about the green economy and wanting to have more copper exposure. And if you look closely, when they talk about copper exposure, they only talk about Arctic and they only talk about the Ambler Mining District, because within their portfolio, we're the only exposure that they have to copper. So we think it's a good story. They're a great partner, a lot of great skills there, and I would say it's been a very collaborative partnership since we formed the JV.
Those listeners may or may not know much about mining in Alaska. Yours is a fairly remote project, and the other partnership that interests me immensely is the partnership with the native corporations. Those people who don't understand the sociology and politics of Alaska would be wise to know that you either have indigenous buy-in or you don't. When I say don't, I mean you don't proceed. So tell us something about your partnership with the host governments and the native corporations and why that's important. What's the nature of these partnerships?
Great question, and I think you're absolutely right. Social license to operate, ESG, all of those tie into our relationship with NANA and the Northwest Arctic Bureau and the communities up there. And my predecessor, Rick Van Nieuwenhuis, really did a great job in building those strong relationships with NANA and the Northwest Arctic Bureau, and in fact formed the agreement with NANA to put NANA lands into the JV in 2011. And that's how we got access to a significant part of the land package that we have. So the partnership with NANA is as follows. NANA has the ability to participate through net profits or net proceeds interest in any mines that are developed in the district, or alternatively, they could take a direct interest. They get to decide, and they only have to make that decision once an investment decision is made. Now, there's different ramifications for both. One, they wouldn't have to put up any capital. The other, they would have to put up capital, including sunk capital. So we don't know where they're going to go. But I think the important consideration for NANA and the Northwest Arctic Bureau is that they would have an economic slice, not just taxes, and royalties, but a real economic slice in what's going to happen in the district. And I think that's a real key. The second factor that we always have to keep in mind is that we're talking about NANA and Northwest Arctic Borough land. And the road that's planned into this district is private industrial use road only. And it's going to be key that we continue to focus on subsistent hunting and fishing, that we work very closely with the communities, that we have a lot of outreach. And I would say the biggest challenge we've had this past year because of COVID is we haven't been able to get out to the villages and see people and connect with people. So we're obviously looking at remedying that now. We're in the process of starting the field season, and we want to get out and continue to engage very closely with the communities and really reinforce the strength of the projects that we have and the district as a whole. And then the last thing that I would point out with respect to NANA and the Northwest Arctic Borough is that they have a rich mining history. They're involved with the Red Dog mine, and Red Dog's the largest zinc mine in the world. In fact, they have a net profit interest there. So they're no strangers to mining. They understand how it works, and they have great skills within their communities. And we're obviously looking at leveraging off of those skills through employment opportunities and through procurement and training.
Tell us how you're going to advance these opportunities in the next 12 and 24 months so that people who are looking to become shareholders of Trilogy can understand how your efforts will increase the value of their investment and the share price too.
It's a great question, and a couple of things are going to happen imminently. We've got this $27 million drill campaign that is going to start up, in fact, in early June. So we're going to have drill results coming out likely in September, starting in September. We didn't have a drill campaign last year. I think that impacted the share price a little bit, and we're going to have lots of news flow coming out from that. We're also in the process of continuing to do additional advanced study work at the project. So we had done a feasibility study at the Trilogy level. Now the JV has taken that work and they're doing more study work. And then if everything comes together, the plan is to start the permitting process for the mine later this summer. And we're looking at roughly a 24 to 30 month permitting period, which would hopefully put us in a position to make an investment decision on the first mine, Arctic, sometime around the end of 23, early 24. So we've got a reasonable timeline. The other thing, Rick, and you would appreciate this very well because you've been around the space a long time, is cash. The JV has about $140 million in cash. So right now we're spending about $35 million a year. So we've got around 4 years of funding. So we're well funded relative to a lot of other junior development companies. So we're in a good position where we've got staying power. We get to use that cash to really conduct more exploration, delineate different ore bodies, expand, hopefully Arctic, and do some work at Bornite and some of the other targets. So that's how we see adding value over the next 12 to 24 months.
Obviously, the existing value has been substantiated by the feasibility study. It must be fun if you update that feasibility study to today's copper price. You had indicated that the net present value was in excess of $2 billion. Pardon me. How does that compare with the current market cap?
Yeah, so my colleague Pat Donnelly runs those numbers on a regular basis, and he updated it just the other day. And we had $2.6 billion after-tax MPV for Arctic on a 100% basis, that's on using an 8% discount rate, 45% IR, spectacularly good results. The market cap of a company is roughly close to 400 million now US. And if we take out our cash position and our portion of JV cash, it's down to around $320 million in comparison to the enterprise value. So that's the enterprise value in comparison to half of that 2.6 billion when we look at Arctic, without any value being attributed to Bornite or any of the exploration upside in the district. So we think there's a compelling opportunity here. We think there's lots of upside in the story. And copper, as you know, is looking very, very good. And we took out 2011 highs, and it definitely looks like it wants to continue to go higher.
Tony, thanks again for your decade-long support of our investment activities and our conference. We're looking forward to having you back next year where we learn more about the road, more about the permitting, more about the financing. Thanks as always.